that is pretty airtight. You should not lose in that situation, but Jin Air found a way to do it.
Honestly, it's nice to see someone being put to the sword. It wasn't necessarily GBM in particular, but Jin Air took that game far too lightly, and that's why it's good to see them pay for it. And now we can just put those first 2 games away. Now it's just a best of 1 for all the marbles, and if Jin Air lose, I mean, basically all their hopes for October play, for even September play, are gone.
Yeah, unless there's another equally shocking upset, but you kind of don't think that one's coming through. And Jin Air, they had a bit of a gimme here, because guess what? Najin still has to play SK Telecom. They haven't done that in the second round robin yet.
This was the gimme, absolutely. The difference was one team had to play SBENU, the other one had to play SK Telecom. Crazy to think that the results might be paired or then some in those 2 series. Just wait and see what Jin Air does on the blue side this time around. They've banned away the Alistar.
Yeah, they didn't pick it in the first game first. They took the Rek'Sai and took the Alistar in the second round of the draft. We're seeing
Rek'Sai on blue side.
Okay, that's interesting. I wonder what they want to go for here. And so they mix up their bans. It was in the first game Ezreal, Gragas, and Riven. But since Soar is no longer in this series, the Riven becomes a bit freer, and it will be in Nidalee. So Ryze may be the first pick. Okay, interesting. What is SBENU's plan?
So clearly they had to choose between the Ryze and the Nidalee, given how strong Jin Air on poke. You know, if you force them to go for this 5v5 team fight comps, they can make mistakes in the late game. They're pretty assured on the Nidalee, but it's a high price to pay giving up the Ryze.
Well, they do deny 3 top-tier junglers from Chaser, though, which is intelligent in its own right, as they take the Victor too, so GBM is going to have a different solution.
Twisted Fate doesn't make it through picks and bans. Those are the 2 champions you've been playing a lot of, the likes of Victor, Twisted Fate, and I guess Cassiopeia would be his other frequently played mid. He'd need to find a jungler with decent pressure. And, you know, it's not necessarily a favorable matchup. It's definitely one you can opt into. And I guess there is the potential that it's a Ryze mid, so we shouldn't necessarily pigeonhole our thinking too much.
I don't think you show the Ryze mid this early in the draft, though. You take your jungler right here. It will be the Evelynn. There's no Rek'Sai on the other side, so less risk. And Chaser has been decent about getting some of those flanks in. Meanwhile, Corki could be the choice here from Pilot, going back to an old staple.
Now will SBENU pick up the cog more? They have decent zone control. No. It's engage time, clearly, with the Sivir.
Yep, and they want to go for the kill pressure immediately. Try and play full tilt right here, and I think that's a good plan. How did they beat last time? They had the engage, and Jin Air just fell apart in terms of their positioning.
Jin Air going to have to show their mid laner. It could still loom to be the Ryze. One of the things that this comp puts together is a lot of relying on Trace to carry, and we've mentioned that's not been one of the modes that Jin Air operate on. It's been all about Chase. There's no saying that he can't carry from the jungle as Evelynn, but a lot relying on the Ryze.
I'm actually surprised we didn't see the Echo Papa Smithy for Chaser, because the chain of the Rune Prison into the Parallel Convergence is very strong, but I guess it will be a mid-lane Ryze. Something we've seen this season from the likes of Faker, but not common.
Well, it's the Maokai's locked in to know for sure. I agree with you on the side of
Echo's definitely a better choice now with Maokai and Leona. Oh no, it's way better.
It definitely is, but you feel like Chaser, you know, it's a champion that should fit both Jin Air, who love to run poke comps, you know, the zone control that Echo can put out, even if you're building full tank. It should fit their comps. Ever since we saw Score really run over Chaser's Echo, the one time he played it in the series between those 2 teams, he just hasn't come back to it, even though it does feel like the sort of champion that Chaser can put damage out on, can be a tanky threat. It should be in the Jin Air playbook. It's just been completely discounted.
Yeah, it has been. But again, you have kill pressure in all the lanes with Echo right now.
Please, Soul, do it.
And would we see our first Singed?
I don't think so, but it's not a bad matchup for him. Maokai, Shen, both decent matchups. Shen is definitely the preferential one, but it's probably not going to be that. But will he go Fizz hunting? Because he does have the Fizz summoner spells in the top lane.
Could be Hecarim too, depending. Gnar. Okay, well that was a bit of a wacky last-minute shift, but it does provide them with some nice secondary engage to follow up on Annie and Gragas, as well as that winning matchup versus the Maokai. So Everything's on GBM right now. He's going to have to scale. They are going to have some mid-game punch with the Corki and the Maokai picks.
A lot of scaling on the side of Jin Air, specifically from GBM in the mid lane. Of course, Maokai going to likely build into the Righteous Glory as well. A lot of immediate power coming through from SBENU, but look, they had an engage heavy comp and made it work in game 2. Just need to go right back to that playbook and do it again.
Yep. And if they are as confident in their team fighting capabilities and their ability to catch Jin Air off guard and really punish them for further positioning errors, this may be the composition to do it with. Now, there's a ton of engage from Jin Air, though. Leona, Evelyn, Maokai. So they are going to be much more effective in that regard. Rise shouldn't have trouble at least getting onto the front line at minimum in this particular game.
Agreed, but the Evelyn is kind of the question mark. Rise mid against Victor. Victor will definitely have the early wave clear advantage. Of course, Rise can just get super powered and clear waves decently, but if Victor can really run this mid, and if they can take GBM's turret, I think there's a lot of counterplay for SBENU.
Yeah, there is. Maybe tough to do, especially with that Corki powering up early and presenting a turret threat of his own. We are about to get into game 3, Jin Air versus SBENU. Well, here we are again, Papa Smithy. SBENU 1-1. They're still looking for that first best-of-3 win. They're fighting for pride right now, but I'm sure it would mean the world to them to actually beat Jin Air in this best-of-3.
Not halting GBM's dance moves just yet on the Dark Crystal Rise. This was once a banned skin, I believe, but finally back into competitive. What's your take on the Dark Crystal Rise?
I'm not really into the Rise skins.
Come on, Zombie Rise is cool.
Zombie Rise is cool. I agree with that.
Where's your patriotism?
No, I don't. I think the Uncle Rise is overused.
Okay.
It's overused.
That's fair.
So I'm appreciative of the scarcity, relatively, of the Dark Crystal Rise. I like the Pirate Rise skin.
With his cannon?
Yeah. I don't know how he reads that into spells. Maybe it's engraved on the cannon itself.
I feel like that one's not really very lore appropriate.
That's okay. Nobody cares about the lore anyway.
Fair.
Except when they disable champions that are enabled on the tournament realm for some reason, so no one can practice them in ranked.
I knew you'd go there, Monte Cristo.
I think that's not a great idea.
But Gangplank died, Monte Cristo.
But if he's still enabled for tournament usage, you should be able to actually practice him.
But he's dead.
I don't care.
Jin Air actually walked into this brush.
Oh, the cheese is real. Secret eats a bunch of damage, and that is that risk. I like that we're seeing the Corki Leona lane come back, Papa Smithy. It's Worlds time, almost. So Corki Leona back in the meta, naturally.
Corki never left the meta, but Leona is one of these champions that has the very strong laning phase against the Annies. Now with the early harass, they have a significant minion advantage. Secret needs to be so defensive because the level 2 burst is real, and Chase is here as well.
Man, the cheese is so fresh this game, but Chase are not going to commit to that. It would be really difficult to get in for a gank right there.
Isn't fresh cheese worse?
Yes, it's far worse. You want to age it. But it's fresh in this game because
or maybe you
it's
were being
early. It hasn't been aged yet. There's no late game cheese.
That wasn't just some urban lingo, the freshest of cheese.
Suppose we could go there. And look at this, an invade coming in right now. Sweet is there to provide some harassment, but he will be backed up by Secret. Catch level 2, so is Sweet, and he's going to try and just be as annoying as he possibly can be. Now, we do see Chaser wrapping around the side. Are they going to go for this? There's the Zenith Blade pushing him forward, but Sweet can't really do much more than that.
Smart of him to hold on to the body slam till as the animation was going through, so it couldn't be cancelled. So, nice mechanics, opens up a lot of distance away from the Leona, removes any pressure from Jin Air.
Well, Chaser not going to get much, though, in spite of his attempts this early on. He's actually going to be behind in levels now without that blue buff. GBM pushing up, but immediately getting out of there as Catch thinks about making a play over the Raptor wall. That'll push right back towards him. And he evades an early gank on this Rise. Has taken Ghost.
No combat summoners for lane. Obviously will help him get away from ganks, but just a really necessary spell to get into fights in the late game especially.
So Chaser finally going to take a delayed blue buff. Catch gets the first recall, so he will be back out on the map sooner. And Soul not putting a lot of harassment down on a Trace yet. Of course, this matchup really does favor Gnar once you actually get the Hex Drinker. Before that, it's not quite so easy.
It's also just a really hard lane for Trace to itemize in, because the Maokai, it's kind of split between the 3 item purchases. Health, and you're going to get whittled down by the Gnar W, the Hyper. If you build armor, which is kind of the thing that you'd most expect, given the Boomerang toss does exclusively physical damage, then the Hyper damage is magic damage. So it's just very hard to itemize. You kind of want both the Catalyst, the Shroud, and also the Spectre's Cal, and that's obviously a really big investment. Speaking of investments, a lot of time being used by Catch. Secret has the flash and the stun procced, but not quite enough spacing for Catch to become involved.
Well, they just have no idea where Chaser is. They want to punish Sweet for posturing pretty aggressively here, but there is an element of risk to that, and it looks like actually they just want to push forward, and Catch is only playing defensively, so Nuclear and Secret will just fall back and open up an opportunity to shop. And Catch just there waiting on the counter gank in case he's needed.
Still actually fallen behind in experience despite the fact that Chaser spent a lot of time around lanes very early into the game, so I'm sure he'll catch up soon. He's close to level 4, Pop's level 4 himself, so not much to speak about between the junglers. Not quite BF Sword Gold in bot lane either.
Wow, GBM just standing right in the fountain right there, waits for his tier. He's a bit late in getting it, but still early enough. And meanwhile, there's a surprisingly large CS lead for Trace in the top side. Looks like Soul not playing this matchup very aggressively early, and Trace eking out a few extra CS.
You often see a lane swap to get Maokai out of this 1v1, so surprising to see Trace so on top of the matchup. No defensive wards from either team. I guess the fact that you can't ward against Evelynn makes it just that much more risky, because of course targeted CC into the very high early base damages of Evelynn might mean death for the Gnar. He's going to transform into Mini Gnar very soon. I think a dive would be optimistic, but still possible from Evelynn and Maokai.
Well, is that one longsword, and they don't have any information right now. Actually, Soul got down to about 50% during that trade, so Trace taking advantage of the Mega Gnar form to get in and get close. And they are going to try to dive, but look at Catch. He's right here. Can they get it done in time? And they're going to go down. Soul is actually just going to fall, or is he? There you get the first blood. Trace will flash out. Catch cannot come through. And he is going to back off through his minion line right now to avoid any kind of body slamming. Oops. Well, not sure if that was supposed to hit Trace or not. A little bit of a threat of a turnaround right there, but they barely get that kill. Chaser picks it up.
Catch had the right idea coming to help Soul, but just couldn't take the most direct route. I believe he tried to body slam over to the golems and maybe didn't find one, because of course that camp's been ruined earlier by Chaser. So nice dive coming through for first blood, and it'll probably just cement further Maokai's lane ascendancy over Gnar.
Especially with that cowl purchase from Soul. So he's going for a very defensive build. We rarely see this on Gnar in this matchup, but that's basically capitulating to losing the lane now.
Yeah, we've seen solo kills for Maokai versus Gnar. Certainly shouldn't be the norm, but with a purchase like that, without the Hex Drinker to even threaten damage, the hyper damage only becomes relevant around level 12 when you can finally put 5 points into that ability. In the early game, it's just going to be free farm for Trace, and you think that's going to be righteous glory and team fight wins for Jinac, even with the Rise powering up till much later in the game.
Yeah, and Chaser has a chance to gank that lane again too, because there's no armor or anything. I mean, basically, Trace is going to be at full HP and Chaser will have damage. So it's looking pretty promising. And here we go. Nuclear does get the spell shield down. They force the ultimate out. Chaser is there. Can they follow it up? Yes, they can. Nuclear is going to be dove underneath the turret. Summer Heal not going to be enough. TP's now coming in. There's a big Gnar ult, but it's not going to be enough to kill Chaser. However, the Ignite will take him down. Finally, We see Catch coming in, but there's no more damage. They do trade 1 for 1. And GBM chasing Saucin around in the river.
Surprising to see Catch back away just because Victor was going to respond first, but I guess respecting the fact that Ghost and Flash, the 2 mobility summoners, means that GBM might have just been more reliable in impacting that fight with all the flashes down. The big factor was that Secret actually got the CC onto Sweet, so he wasn't able to use his Q and any follow-up CC despite having a huge amount of it as Leona. That's what opened the distance, got the kill trade. It was a nice play for SBENU in a bad situation.
Yeah, well, the 1 for 1 trade is decent, but I mean, trading your AD carry for the jungler is not exactly optimal. Chaser got the kill though, so the gold not going necessarily to the right places on Jin Air, but neither can be said for SBENU, just the support taking the Ignite kill as it ticked off as Chaser ran away, so it's kind of a wash.
We have this issue in the top lane with Soul. You have to assume he had that 1200 gold rather than the 1350 for the Hex Drinker. Went for laning stats, but pigeonholes him into teamfight now, which everyone knows is just not a reliable option. You need to have the split push threat and the big teamfight now, because 1 out of 4 times maybe you get that Gnar against the wall, but more reliably, it's so much to work around for both of your team and so much information for the enemy team to really play around your power positions in a fight.
To be fair, having teamfight Gnar is probably the best. If you have to build this way, at least you have an Annie to set it up.
Sure.
Right? That Annie is probably the best possible support, or really any position that you could have. Or, okay, we could say maybe Sejuani, but Sejuani not really in the meta right now. You need someone to reliably set up a big crowd control so you can follow up on it with the Gnar. So as far as this situation goes, not great, obviously, but it definitely is a lot better than it could be.
You could argue that, of course, Jin Air's teamfight positioning, they opted into 4 5-man equalizers a lot of the previous game, and their teamfights in general have been pretty poor, highlighted by Pilot being assassinated in the last fight in Game 2. There's the go button.
And Sweet just going to get bursted down immediately. There's a big actual, oh, look at that. Sweet was going to walk away. Now, are they too low? Looks like the Agony's Embrace coming down, but they don't have the speed to catch anyone else. And a flash from the Boomerang Blade. Nice engage there. Nuclear and Secret just willing to pull that trigger. Sweet tanky and got a nice solar flare, but it wasn't enough.
Pick up another kill. Good play from SBENU. Pressed the go button. Didn't even use the Gragas ultimate. Not sure if it was off cooldown, but picked up the kill. But yeah, was millimeters away from 2 answering kills for Jin Air.
It's not actually doing that much work as we take a look. Look how much more farm Chaser has right now. He is just ripping through the jungle with the early Warrior Gem, and now he's behind. There's actually a gank at the bottom lane right now into Sivir. We're not going to see it, but Nuclear dies.
Yep. That was without an Agony's Embrace. That must have just been a huge overextension without summoners by Nuclear.
Well, you have the Warrior Enchant, and you have the Sheen. So there's a lot of damage there, and Nuclear had no summoners, no ultimate.
No life.
No life.
See the Reaper? It was the ward that was the big factor. Got a bit greedy trying to poke out Pilot and died.
Yep. Pretty straightforward. Enough speed and gap closers there to make the difference. So Pilot will pick up his first kill of the game. Jin Air still with a substantial gold lead. They have farm leads in top, in jungle, and in bottom. Particularly that jungle one is really big already. He's a sight stone ahead. That is very big.
That is huge. And in the mid lane, it's the expected small advantage from Saucin as Ryze powers up, gated by items. So much is this Ryze in the early game. So going better than expected in the laning phase for Jin Air.
Yeah, definitely. Soul trying to harass Trace, but it's not that effective right now. And Sweet just here, lurking. Catch is also going to be coming through. We see that Chaser takes the red buff. No Agony's Embrace, but Explosive Cask up for Catch.
Shorter cooldown. Catch didn't use it in the previous fight. Will we just see the ultimate again? Chaser is level 9 to the level 7 of Catch.
Right, and if this ult comes off cooldown, which it will right now, they're going to wait for this to push forward. Catch a little bit leery. They've got great wards everywhere except for that Tri-Brush, so Catch can still slip in there, but he's going to have to lane gank.
It's up level 8 in the Gromp buff. There's still something for Gragas and what may be a massive 3v3 skirmish.
Here we go! Solar Flare! Nope. Well, they popped the spell shield and the on the hunt immediately, but a flash burned actually from Secret. That's nice so that they can't, Jin Air can't get all in the bottom again.
Flash being down on Annie just removes that reliable flash tippers engage. No distortion boost. That's 5 minutes where it's going to be just that much more offensive in the bot lane for Jin Air.
Jin Air may be going for round 2. They actually did not burn the Evelynn ultimate, so they could, in fact, deal with that. Now we do see SBENU starting to move into the river with Ryze back inside his base. It's a nice Rod of Ages timing, though. GBM's been getting some really good farm. He's been really not harassed very significantly.
24 minutes. That's when we'll see the 10 stat. That is very early.
Nice, especially with the tier first.
Seraph's Embrace won't be that far behind, so things looking good for GBM. Only has the Ghost available. Chase is looking for the turret dive. Solar Flare cooldown at level 1. Not quite the super short cooldown of late game, but just considering their options around bot lane at Jin Air.
Yeah, they're still waiting to power up a little bit with this Trinity Force. Jin Air going to have a very smooth power spike, actually, a very smooth power curve, I should say, because they'll have the Trinity Force, and that's going to lead directly into Ryze finishing his Rod of Ages stacks and his Seraph's Embrace.
Chaser once again inching towards a fight. Victor once again is going to be the first one to react. A lot of pressure around bottom lane, but nobody willing to pull the trigger.
Yeah, Ketch has been playing around bottom very heavily in all the games tonight.
Precisely on top of a ward. Needs to get that Raptor buff and start clearing out those wards. He's been very predictable in his positioning. Soul's been losing the 1v1 trades as we would have expected given his item build. Still only has a longsword in terms of laning statistics.
Well, I'm actually surprised that he's even going for the longsword at this late of a stage. It seems like there's already been a missed opportunity.
Maybe a Phage for just a bit of movement in fights. I don't know if Phage or Hexdrinker really does a lot more work, but yeah, I agree with you. At this present point, if you miss that, 8-minute timing for your Hexdrinker or the very early first laning purchase, just build a Banshee Veil. Guarantee that Gnar ultimate if the team really communicates around your Gnar bar effectively.
Yeah, Pilot playing really far back now. They don't want to eat another Tippers if they can avoid it, and they don't have Chaser there. He is busy handing off the blue buff, so that's not really going to give Ketch an opportunity to gank. He's still down in that bottom side. Yep. They get found out.
It's a super early scrying ult from Pilot, but level 9 already. He's going to have the larger range and the shorter cooldown.
Yeah, it's a nice pickup. Definitely doing work this early on into the game. Well, no dragon taken yet. SBENU probably should think about maybe committing to that. Soul actually got a red buff in this top side, so it looks like he was the designated one. And honestly, with Ketch just spending his entire time on the bottom side of the map, you might as well just give it over so you can get some more harassment here and maybe start to win this lane in a more convincing fashion, because right now it's pretty even.
Yeah, it was a good allocation of resources actually by SBENU to say, all right, I'm not spending any time in top barring smiting my Raptor buff. GBM with the wraparound gank not spotted out at all. And he's going to charge up that passive as well. Oh, boy.
Oh, no. And Soul actually hops forward. It couldn't come at a worse time. Now he discovers, hey, there's a Ryze in my lane, and he's got Ghost. Soul going to do what he can, but no one's even near a wall, and he doesn't even hit GBM. GBM just destroys him. So SBENU going to get a dragon, but frankly, I don't think Jin Air actually cares. That kill onto Ryze is so valuable in the early game.
Anything to power up those stacking items is massive for Jin Air. Back in uncontested, although Jin Air poking around afterwards. There's the engage.
Trying to cut off Catch. It's not really going to work, though. And a quick gravity field. They're still going for it. Trace actually going to follow up all the way onto Catch. They see that Catch is low. Explosive Cast goes through. There's the Agony's Embrace, but I don't know if Jin Air really wants this fight. Trace still there. I mean, GBM is not here at all.
They're opting into a 5v4. There's the Gnar teleport. Now he's only in mini Gnar form, but it's coming in quick.
Wow, I have no idea why you would take that fight if you are Jin Air.
Soul completely couldn't decide between which threat. He's probably going to take down Chaser, waiting for one more auto attack. Yes, gets the kill.
And now, SBENU able to group in the mid lane. GBM got a turret, but they were going to get that whether they took that fight or not. Now they're trading a turret for a turret, and it is mid lane at that. The one that they really would have liked to have kept up with this Ryze. That is an insanely poor trade for Jin at this stage of the game. They gave up a kill, they gave up a dragon, they gave up their mid lane turret for a top lane turret.
Yeah, they would have got that top lane turret regardless, but the top lane turret for Dragon Trade, which honestly, for a team that, you know, picking up gold, getting items onto Rise is pretty ideal.
Especially since they got a kill onto him too.
And now it's so much more for SBENU. They're going to push bottom lane as well. Sweet's there to pick up the minion wave though, so no extra turrets or extra objectives for SBENU.
Wow, really questionable decision making. They knew too that Soul was coming back up with his TP available, so it was quickly turned into a 5v4. And GBM at the very least got some farm, but that is not worth it at all.
And let's be clear, GBM is super strong, already has the Archangels, still stacking both of his stacking items, but they're probably going to be finished around the same time, if not an Archangels earlier. So, accounting for this rise in fights, still not something SBENU has shown they're really going to be able to do.
Well, I mean, even if Jin can win this game, they are really not looking like a playoff caliber team, Baba Smithy. I think you can say that at the very least, because there have been some massive errors throughout this series.
And the team fighting in general, that's the one area where Jin just aren't a good team fighting team. That's not something they seem to be able to do.
No. And even the decision making, and Secret actually going to flash forward on a Chaser. They want to take him out, but he's going to just get out of the choke with the help of the Agony's Embrace. And a quick retreat here from SBENU. Meanwhile, Soul getting some good damage down onto the top side turret. May be able to take this objective soon.
He did opt into the Hex Drinker, so chipping away at the turret, chipping away at Trace. Level 13, so now 5 points in Hyper. Those auto attacks are now doing very respectable damage to Trace. He has a null magic mantle, but no much more magic resist outside of the Merc.
Yeah, still going to walk forward though. Arcane Smash the Wave, not ready to give up his tower quite yet. GBM still trying to power up right now. He should hit his Seraph's Embrace within the next 2 minutes or so. And that will be a very nice opportunity for him. Remember that his Rod of Ages will be fully stacked by about 24.5 minutes.
Secret did have the Distortion Boots when he went for the Flash Tibbers, but that's still another cooldown that SBENU has to play around. The only true engage at present point reliably is the Flash Tibbers. And can Soul get the massive Gnarl to really justify the pick?
Well, and that's what we're going to be finding out with the Gragas, a little bit of anti-synergy right there. But if he can follow up on Secret, he may be okay. We do still see that big CS lead for Chaser. He is considerably more wealthy than his jungle opposition. Seraph's Embrace now done.
Early Seraph's Embrace done. Suddenly super tanky between the shield passive he gets already. Trace doing a great job of buying time when it comes to this turret. It's definitely on a timer. It'll definitely be down the next 2 to 3 minutes, but Trace doing everything he can to stop another bit of global gold coming through for SBENU.
Yeah, they still have the gold lead, Jin. In spite of everything, they actually have that turret advantage with both side turrets down, but it looks like they're just going to choose to give this up. And Trace will home guard into the top side, now has a cowl. Dragon up in 1.5 minutes, and they're going to want to take this first one, as SBENU already grabbed one of their own, and they're in a much better place to fight the dragon this time.
Chase is going for selfish statistics. He has the Giant Spell. They're not looking to build an Aegis. Now, it's only a single AP liner, depending on, well, of course, the support and jungle doing magic damage, but not feeling necessitated to have to pick up the Aegis. So if they can eliminate Sarsen first, that extra Giant Spell should help to deal with the Sivir damage. Of course, Infinity Edge needs to be accounted for.
Well, I think the Randuin's Omen early is just more advantageous, because what you need is GBM just to be able to walk through a team fight, and any additional CC that you can get to help him do that and to set up a lot of Rise AoE is going to be very helpful.
Dragon is going to spawn in 30 seconds. If they can pull it out for a minute, we're talking 10-stack blue buff Rod of Ages with the Seraph's Embrace. Remember, when SBENU was able to get a bit of momentum back into this game, that was with GBM not grouped with his team.
So, looks like the ward's already down for Jin though, so SBENU going to have a hard time doing that. Chaser's just waiting there next to a speed shrine. They have the vision advantage to be sure. So Trey's starting to work his way down.
Very
and
nice
recall.
flank wall. It's a very deep pink wall. That
Chaser has
spotted.
great positioning right now. If the rest of his team can follow up, are they going to pull the trigger? He is just hiding in a black spot. And here we go. Agony's Embrace not really going to hit anybody. Actually, Trace there with the TP on the outside. GBM, he's going to start doing work, but look at that. Sweep falls down nearly immediately. GBM is killed. And that may be it, actually, as we do see, very low. Sassen still chasing Trace on the outside. The tree gets a double kill. Pilot there, wow, that was incredibly close for Jin Air as they botched their engage just a little bit. Can they come around and get this dragon? They're taking some decent damage, and Sassen wants to poke them out with that death ray.
Waiting to see if they'll finish this up. Pilot's still close to full health. 1,000 health on the dragon. The teleport comes through. They're going to look for some kills at least.
Yeah, Soul comes back around. Trace is just going to give his life right now. He no longer has the flash. So a kill goes down. Pilot escapes down to the bottom.
Now we have a delayed teleport timer for Soul. You know, credit to him, he did harass out Pilot, but couldn't pick up any kills, and now feels like Trace will have first use of the teleport. It was nice flanking, honestly, from both Maokai and Evelyn, but the result was that both Leona and Rise were at the wrong side of the fight.
Well, that Agony's Embrace really didn't do much either, and look at that. The Tibbers just hitting Sweet and GBM immediately.
They were on the other side of the fight, so Nuclear actually flashed on top of both members to get the early kills. It's only now that Pilot is coming into the fight because he wasn't grouped with tank line as well. Jin Air's positioning was all over the place, trying to create a situation where Rise could just free hit 1, 2 targets, but in the end, he just got collapsed upon, and they lost the fight.
Well, that's the danger, right, with flanking, is that if GBM got too close too fast alongside Sweet, you really have to time it well. Otherwise, a collapse onto the flank like what SBENU does deals a lot of damage. We look at a situation where Jin Air had the right idea, but the execution was just a little bit off.
Teamfight execution has been eluding them all series. Honestly, most of the last 6 weeks in this whole season, if you want to be realistic about it, it's not been their strong point. And this is probably the best series SBENU has put out in terms of actually being competitive, even in this third game.
Yeah, and with that, too, they snag a gold lead,
Wow.
which is nice for them,
That's
actually.
probably the first time they've been in a third game with a gold lead, you know, more than maybe 5-6 minutes into the game.
Oh man, if SBENU can win this, it is an absolute nightmare for Jin Air and a huge, huge help for Najin.
Honestly, with the way Najin's playing at the moment, they don't need too much help or too much invitation to be able to assault both the playoff positions and potentially higher than that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, especially Najin upsetting the KOO Tigers recently, too.
This Jin Air team doesn't look like a team that's going to be upsetting anyone up the top of the stand.
No, I mean, if this game is this close against a team that has yet to win a best-of-3, there are real big problems for Jin Air.
Let's not write them away. They do have a Rise who just hasn't been involved in team fights in an ideal sense. First being completely absent from the first 4v5 skirmish, which is on Jin Air for engaging in a situation where Rise had no way to get there, and then just being collapsed upon. So let's see if in more similar terrain, when they're fighting on a more even keel, whether GBM can actually take over these fights. Because this is patch 5.13. Rise is still pretty damn strong.
He is undoubtedly pretty damn strong. And now...
Great synergy with the magic damage as well, with the magic damage shred that he puts out. So if you group SBENU, there could be deletion coming through from Jin Air.
Yeah, and they don't need the Maokai to flank here. I think that's one of the big things that they're not considering, is that Maokai just needs to stand in front of Rise. Sure, Eve can flank, that's okay. But you don't have to have that. You just need the Maokai to peel. But they've been having trouble peeling off of their primary carries. That's how they lost the last game.
Hogmore left to the Wolves. They cannot let the same thing happen with Rise. It's happened once already.
It's harder to leave Rise to the Wolves, though. Much more durable, especially in the late game.
Not quite the durable tank that he once was, though. You still seem to see more AP being built. Void Staff earlier. You don't build into the Frozen Heart or Magic Resist as simply as you used to, mainly because, you know, Riot tried to remove the incentive to build cooldown reduction now that you get 30% CDR free from your ultimate. So the itemization's a bit different, and the result is a squishier but definitely higher damage rise.
Yes. Well, Chaser and the rest of Jin Air will get supremacy over the Scuttle Crab.
I like the Banshee Veil purchase from Soul a lot. It's just one less CCS to worry about when he goes to look for that position for the Mega Gnar transformation. So, Home Guard Banshee Veil. We still haven't seen the Epic Gnar, but threat is always there.
He's starting. Where's his money coming from, actually? Trace should have quite a bit of extra cash to spend, just given what we're looking at in terms of the items right now. Because if that Randuin's is nearly completed on the Soul, and Trace has not so much. Well, there's the Shroud. He's getting up there, but interesting.
Laning statistics and teamfight statistics for Soul when, you know, not long ago he was sitting on just a cowl in lane against Maokai.
Yeah, and falling behind in terms of CS, now he has taken the lead in that category. Starting to farm up, and, you know, Jin Air, they really want to take out this mid turret. It would help them out a lot when it comes to engaging these team fights. It will open up Evelynn for more flanking routes.
Both Maokai and Evelynn love it when the turrets go down because you get those flank wards, you get that extra space to come through. Of course, you cannot use the coves next to this outer turret for an Evelynn flank because you will be sinned by the outer turret's vision.
Jin Air happy just to wait for the next dragon fight. Maybe they want to stack that one up. They got the last one. It came at a pretty high price. Are they going to try a different form of engage in this one? Once more, they have more wards around the river.
Are they overthinking it? Chase is always, you know, standing deceptively smart positions, but then Maokai also goes for the flank, and surely the way to deal with a double flank is just collapse on the 3 members left over,
yeah.
and he's the best champion to do that with.
I think Trace has realized that he's actually not going for a flank this time. He is standing in front of his carries, which is the proper positioning, I feel, given the current circumstances. And so now actually SBENU leaves the river, so they have a really good opportunity just to go for the dragon here once they get Pilot and GBM wrapped back around.
Locker is completed. We mentioned that Chaser wasn't going to be building into that. Had the Giants belt a long time ago, only added a Warden's Mail. Has the goal to finish the Randuins, but just not had a buy timing. So Chaser hasn't changed in power for quite a long time.
Okay, well, still no good vision in the river. Jin Air just monopolizing that with a pink ward in the pixel brush. So they're going to start actually doing this dragon right now, but they're a little bit spread out. Looks like they're going to get it for free. And no contest here from SBENU. That could have been a very good opportunity for them to all in with a Sivir ultimate, but they didn't have the vision to do it, so Jin Air get away with it.
Smart of them to never funnel into a 4-5-man solar flare or into any other kind of threatening engage. So second dragon's certainly not a big thing in terms of both the timer, because, man, fifth dragon's a long, long way away, and second dragon's immediate stats, not really relevant.
Okay, well, still more pink wards going in. SBENU trying to set up a pick right now. Oh, Trace, TP goes in. Are they going to get up? GBM is caught out, actually has to flash immediately. Now, can they turn this? Trace still in the front line, taking a lot. Soul's going to be there. Pilot putting in some rockets from the back line, and Trace gets out with the flash. So SBENU commits, but they don't get a kill. Really close.
Super, super close. Sweet wasn't there. He didn't get to use any of his abilities. Flash away from Trace keeps him alive. Has the teleport if they want a ring edge, and a massive minion wave in top needs to be answered right now. And Jin is running straight to Baron.
Yeah, they want to do the Baron. They didn't actually lose that much HP, and Trace is there. He's got the home guard and the TP. They're waiting to bait this. They want to go in if they can. So this is a fight in the making. There's the teleport. Gravity field dropped immediately, but Trace gets slowed down, just going to turn back, so Jin Air doesn't commit to much of anything.
Feels like they could have gone for that. There wasn't position. There was no teleport on Soul. In terms of levels, Chaser and Catch were at the same exact level. So SBENU gets a chance to go clean up that massive minion wave and don't get punished with Baron. And look at that, 2,600 gold on Sivir. They were actually in a gold deficit if there was a fight.
Yeah, that is pretty huge. And even though they dropped that gravity field, maybe there was still enough to follow up from Jin Air, or at least just stick onto the Baron. That was not a good teleport. Didn't have much of an effect whatsoever and was very easily countered by Sassen.
Nuclear had 1,350 gold, so no BS sword gold, so buys a little bit of everything. Needs the QSS clearly to deal with the Malco, even the Rise route. There's a lot of CC, not even counting Leona, so this has a bit of magic resist. SBENU's so close to getting a massive pick and really being able to force things, but just too tanky as Trace.
And they caught out GBM, but he had his summoners up, so was able to clear out pretty darn quick.
Hasn't been able to fit distortion boots into his build. That would obviously really help him. Be realistically up for every neutral fight, given the, 4-minute cooldown that would result from the cooldown reduction mechanic of the distortion boots, but has to itemize into the distortion. He's got his damage core down, though, so if he finally gets a fight where he's able to free use his spells, things will be very different for Jin Air.
SBENU's not making it easy for him, though. They have been quite skillful when it comes to locking down the Rise.
It's been by far their primary focus, and killing Kog'Maw was their focus last game. They managed to finally pull that off in the last fight. We're getting closer and closer to that point where death timers are really going to start to tick up, and relying on Jin Air or betting on Jin Air to win a late game team fight, it's just not good odds. It's not good gambling.
It's not. Even when they have something as potent as a Rise on this patch. Oh, they are looking to push forward again. I mean, I think Jin Air is just happy to play the Dragon game right now and continue to win these warding battles, which has been a trend.
The Dragon game, though, just doesn't feel relevant, Monte Cristo.
No, it doesn't.
It's not going to be a 5th Dragon. The game will be decided by the time a 5th Dragon rolls around. You need to monopolize and started that objective far, far earlier. And you keep opting into fighting around a narrow crevice. Nah, Annie will make you pay one of these times, specifically with the Sivir speed buff.
Yeah, there's so many ways to get onto the opposition. Secret's flash is just about to come up too, so maybe they'll make another attempt. You can see Chaser, he keeps trying to be cute, but there's a lot of pink ward flanks from SBENU. They are well prepared for this. Swede will have a chance to maybe clear out one of them, and he will get it in the end, so that's slightly helpful, but it's just a very delicate dance here in the mid side. Chaser knows there's a pink ward there, so he can't go in really.
How many games have there been where Jin Air gets a small advantage towards the late game, has a quite large advantage, but has no idea on how to finish the game? They're not good at side wave minion control. They're not smart on pulling off turret dives, and they just make a lot of mistakes, even when they have things like Twisted Fate with teleport or a supremely strong late game champion like Rise.
Okay. Well, they allowed SBENU to get into the river. They're going to get the Scuttle Crab and clear out some vision. Chaser will be seen. And now they finally get that pink ward right there. So it's just this circular movement around the Baron right now for both teams. They don't actually kill the pink ward.
SBENU get some time to take out a big minion wave in top. There's a big minion wave in bottom that's pushing out that Rise looks like he's going to be able to go clean out. If they choose to start a fight with the Sivir ultimate, it'll draw the Ghost out from Rise, and it'll still probably be late, but it seems like everyone's happy to trade farm, and I want to hand that over to Jin Air because we're talking about handing over farm to Rise versus this Nara in the top lane, but I've learned better than to bet on Jin Air in the late game.
Yeah, I think we all learned that in the last game. Well, no recall yet from this Rise. He's got quite a bit of money on him at the moment, but for that matter, so do Soul and Nuclear.
Okay. GBM's about 50 gold short of a Banshee Veil. Maybe that will be the answer, because finally Annie won't be able to ruin his day at the start of a fight. Almost every fight when Rise has been grouped, Annie's just been looking to flash tip as GBM to ensure that he's either dead or chunked out to the point where it's not realistic for him to stand in 600 range and chain out those rune prisons like Rises want to do.
So they're going to get the position onto the Dragon one more time. Chaser still looking for some creative pathing on this Evelynn, but Secret has his number this game. He's been catching him out when necessary. It looks like Jin Air going to opt into a bit of a 50-50. Secret is intelligently anticipating the flank right now. Look at that, finds it. And that means that the jungler not going to be a part of this for a little bit. Secret playing well in this situation. Catch wants to go in on this, and they know that Evelyn's not there, so that Jin Air can't really get this dragon. Chaser was seen and now has to back off.
His team fight position from SBENU is better than anything Jin has put together so far this series. Been very smart to have Siva and Victor grouped towards the bottom side, knowing that the only way Evelyn could get in is from the top side. Looks like they've given up completely, and Sarson's just chasing Chaser.
Well, what do you do right there? You can't actually finish the dragon because your smite isn't there. So that's easily taken by SBENU in the end.
For Jin Air to get so comprehensively outthought, I guess it must have been the minion wave they had to account for, but yeah, there's nothing they could do. And look, it's a second dragon again, not really relevant statistics, but symptomatic of what has been a consistent trend for this team.
Well, they just seem to be getting too fancy. We saw this with the teleport TF where they ended up running circles around themselves. And yeah, they want this flank, but Secret's denying it pretty well. And if they don't have the Eve there, they can't contest the dragon. They can't actually do it in a 50-50. So they needed to make a choice whether to back off the dragon and try and engage, or have Chaser with your team and take the dragon. You can't make both decisions at the same time.
Jin Air's decision making, bit of a spinner. We see the CLG spinner back in there. It feels like the Jin Air spinner involves brush camps and double flanks and teleport shenanigans, but
double globals on the same champion.
Yeah, that's what they like to do. GBM was looking for the brush flank. He's looking for a flank, but now he's caught with his pants down. There's lots of members coming. Doesn't matter how much damage he has.
And there you go, knocked around. GBM is just going to get blown up as there was another instance of Jin Air being isolated. Trace tries to be the hero, but I don't think he's going to live. Chaos Storm still ticking away. Trace goes down. It looks like SBENU can just Baron off of that. I have no idea what GBM was doing there.
His first instinct to stand in the brush next to the Krugs was fine, but then he went for some sort of solo guerrilla mission, Metal Gear Solid style, and died for free.
Well, not only that, but his rise mechanics, he missed 2 Qs at the start of that.
Super, super strange play. Remember, this whole game, multiple members from Jin Air have been looking for the flank. They're very well aware that either Evelyn or Maokai is on the flank. Why is it going to be any different if Rise is there? Because they have accounted for their flanks masterfully this game.
Yeah, and that you have to really give props to SBENU for actually anticipating a lot of what was going on, not only in terms of pink wards, but I don't know why GBM is here right now.
He missed 2 Qs, as you mentioned. Didn't even notice that, but more than slightly embarrassing.
He missed another one there, too. He missed 3 in that entire sequence of spells. And after that, it's just piling through. It's so easy with the Sivir to keep on moving through these fights.
41 minutes in, regardless of the result, SBENU Sonicboom is in prime position to take their first win of the season and deny the playoff hopes in all but name for Jin Air.
It would take really, really a big loss from Najin not to be able to bounce back from this. Because remember, Najin's already a win ahead. Now, Jin Air has 1 more series to play, so it could end up in some sort of tiebreaker scenario, but it's not looking good as SBENU continues to put on the siege right now, and they will just zone him off with the gravity field and take down another tier 2, so they're starting to move up in terms of gold lead. Now, it's not done for Jin Air. It is still a late game Rise.
That's the Banshee Veil now, just 1 item slot short of being 6 items, but that's the case for most of the SBENU members as well. When you look at the late game scaling, it is with Jin Air primarily because of the Rise, but we keep talking about that scenario where Rise gets consistent damage off, and just like accounting for their flanks, SBENU have never let that happen.
No, but you actually have to hit your spells now in order for Rise to do that consistent damage, Papa Smithy. That's the key that you may not be understanding.
Some of those spells are targeted. In fact, 2 of the 3.
Yeah, that's true. Well, there were kind of Qs flying all over the place in that last little engagement. I don't think it would have changed anything, but it was sloppy.
It probably would have been a 2-for-1, maybe. They would have probably picked up a kill somewhere, so would it have still been the Baron? I guess that's the question we don't know the answer to. SBENU just going to keep pushing around the sidewaves. Their sidewave control's been pretty good this game. Not quite Samsung level, not quite Anarchy level, but fine. And they're pushing with Baron, so realistically it should be another uncontested objective for SBENU.
Well, you know what's funny, Papa Smithy, is after KT lost to SKT, we said, well, there's probably no more hope for defeating SKT. And then CJ came out of the blue and pulled it off. And after SBENU lost to IM and they lost to Anarchy, because he said, there's no hope now.
Lost to Samsung twice as well.
There's no more hope for them right here to win a series this season. But, oh, man, are they close now. And it would be a huge upset.
But this is not just about Jin Air playing badly. Credit to SBENU. They have understood that Jin Air's only way to win is get that Evelyn into the backline, but Evelyn been on the outside of every single fight.
Yep, and yet another pink ward. The circuitous routes that Chaser has had to take to try and find these engages are not doing them any favors. So they're going to back off. Another dragon should be going SBENU's way. The Baron buff has fallen off at this point, but they got the 3 tier 2s with it. They're going to get their 3rd dragon stack almost certainly after a recall. And it's all up to a heroic defense right now from Jin Air at a 7K deficit.
Exciting to see SBENU in this position. Not something I expected at the start of today. We were kind of shaking our heads after game 2, thinking, all right, why did Jin Air have to subject us to a 3rd game? Whenever we've seen these SBENU series go to 3 games, 3rd game's been kind of just rolling over and dying, but this is 45 minutes of better than solid, of good, strong, strategic League of Legends from SBENU Sonicboom.
Yeah, they haven't really made too many errors here, and
fans have a lot to be optimistic about.
They certainly do. Well, here we go. Dragon will be taken down by SBENU. There's no one there from Jin Air to even remotely contest this. So, free Dragon, number 3.
Soul completely not pressured, able to walk to top. Man, he's super tanky now with the Guardian Angel. Maybe can even fit in some damage. Could turn that Giant Spell into a Frozen Mallet. Maybe that's the right call. Could just go for tankiness, I guess.
Warmhogs.
Yep, he's kind of free to build whatever he wants. Will always have irrelevant damage, specifically with the Hyper. Yeah, just waiting to see if SBENU will make this colossal mistake, because for right now, they're very much controlling this game.
Yes, they are. They're going to use some lenses on the brush. They're not going to... Yeah, there we go. Find the ward eventually, thanks to the Oracle's lens from Catch. There's a bunch of pings going down from Jin Air. I'm not really sure what they're trying to indicate right now about the river. It looks like they may want to try and punish a possible bot lane siege.
Maybe they were pinging out a route for Chase to get around the back and walk in. That's possible for the Evelyn, but minute 30 to Baron.
Those are excellent pink ward placements, by the way, for dealing with an Evelyn flank if you're sieging behind the red buff, and then right at that brush, there's no really opportunity unless you go all the way around in the river. Well, you know, I'm going to feel bad no matter who wins this game, Papa Smithy, because I'll feel bad for SBENU that they came so close to actually getting their first win, and I'll feel bad for Jin Air for maybe not being able to go to the playoffs or go to Worlds. It's not a happy situation in this game. If it had been a quick match against SBENU, you kind of shrug your shoulders and say, well, this is what SBENU is sort of used to, but now that they've actually given it their all, it would be very disappointing for them to have come so close to taking out a top 6 team and then failing.
It's kind of crazy to think that, you know, when Jin Air played SKT for the first time this season, they were one of those teams that was really had the potential to unsettle SKT. Now, the meta's shifted a bit since then, and Jin Air's fortunes have certainly dipped substantially since then, but I didn't think it would come to this.
No, I don't think anybody did. I don't think this could have been predicted whatsoever.
Victor swaps around his items, now has a death cap, so that's 6-item Victor. Even has the perfect tech score, so maybe he's short of a sorcery elixir, but otherwise, super, super powered up.
Yes, he is, and GBM probably going to be finishing off his build with a Guardian Angel.
Secret has it all.
Oh, Sweet gets knocked out. He's going to get picked. There he goes. He dies, and that might be the end of the game. Now we see Soul coming in. Only gets Trace with his ultimate. Soul actually eating a lot of damage from the Rise. Catching the front line right now, and Nuclear trying to do some work. There's the Chaos Storm going down. They want to get Chaser. Trace going to dodge that death ray. GBM almost untouched, but he's taking a lot of damage from Nuclear. Here we go, and they're going to get GBM, and that is 2 for none in the end, and this is almost certainly going to be the final push as Soul is going to TP on top of Tibbers. Can they get the necessary damage down? Pilot is still alive.
SBENU fans
Holy
are
cow.
screaming their lungs out, and they're going to try and finish desperately. There's still 3 threats up.
There still are. Sassen is very low. Chaser wants to get in, but he's going to get stopped, and Pilot dies. Nuclear and Soul on top of him. Trace, he's trying to get the low members, and there is GBM on your screen right now. And this is going to be the first win for SBENU Sonicboom on the season against all odds. When there is nothing for them on the line, they will take out Jin Air and maybe, just maybe, spoil Jin Air's chance at playoffs and the World Championship.
Jin Air had everything on the line, Monte Cristo. They wanted to pick up the 2-0 win, to keep it up there with Najin, to keep it up there with CJ Enters. They dropped one game, and that already put a single arrow through their hearts, but man, they've got nothing left now.
Wow, that is such an impressive upset. You can see Sassen on your screen right now.
Sassen face means something very different now, Monte Cristo. That man is happy.
That man is happy. GBM looking pretty devastated, as well you can imagine, and he thought it was going to be a cakewalk, especially coming into that second game, but their hopes are dashed.
And the crazy thing is, he picked out the right tie. Shame it was for their own fortunes.
Well, you know, Jin Air actually had played one fewer best of 3, so they're not entirely out yet. They still have 2 more chances of redemption, but it is going to be much, much harder for them now. And SBENU, the team who had nothing to play for, who had not won a single best of 3 this season,